Politics with Carol and Robbie on TRU Radio Network.
Welcome back. Monday night, Sports OTHP coming to you on True Radio Network, CP3 live from the lab, Robbie G in the man cave. We got a rough game to recap from yesterday, and the weird thing about it, I didn't even get a chance to check out the whole game. So I just got a text from Dujane, said he'd be on at about 5. So we're going to break down this latest game, but I saw some highlights, and I'm going to look at, we're going to talk about some of the storylines that then came out since the game, about the game, and some of the things said by Coach Rivera in his presser today. But before we get ahead of ourselves, Robbie G, how are you doing tonight, good sir?
I'm doing well. Sorry, just give me 1 second. I had to flip internet connections. All right, there we go. No, things are going well. Up and down week. I had two news and notes I wanted to talk about. And I also, want to make sure everyone's staying safe out there. I mean, my school just announced that we're going to go back to distance learning, so I know that the numbers are on the rise. So I just want to keep people, keep using the mask, keep the social distancing. I know we're a sports podcast, but I'll do a PSA at the top here. I mean, this could get real bad around Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. So I just, want all of our listeners to stay safe out there. And I think it's important. Two quick news and notes. First of all is happy belated birthday. I hope that you had a good day yesterday. I know that you missed some of the game. But I saw that you had a fun time at the Bar Radio, so I hope that you had a good birthday. How was it?
I'll say it was a unique birthday. It it was a little rough, but I had a good time at the Bar Radio. I still got to go back and look at the footage because after all the shots, I don't really remember what we even talked about. So I'll probably be checking that out tomorrow. They said things got a little wild, so you might want to go check that out on either my YouTube channel, Carol Porter the Third with 3 eyes, or go check it on At the Bar podcast. Go subscribe, check it out. We always having fun Sunday night, but it's been an interesting 43rd birthday, and I mean with this game, I guess that should have been a foreshadowing event with the fact that I told you yesterday I had Matt Prater on my fantasy football team, had him all season. Decided to cut him this week. My opponent picks him up, and he puts up 16 points, along with the 59-yard field goal winner to beat the Washington football team. And I'm down by 2 points in fantasy, and I have a tight end going, and he has a wide receiver going. So it's not looking good for the kids. So that was like the foreshadowing event. In fact, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch much of the game, so I didn't get to see everything that was going on. But that's why we have Dujane, and we have Robbie and DC People's Champ to be on later on, and we even have Paul the boxing guy to break down the Bud Crawford Kell Brook fight this weekend. So we got a full show. There's
real quickly, two other quick things.
Oh,
One,
yeah, you have notes. Go ahead.
So I got to give you shout outs. You're still at the top of our Pick'em League. You got 8 more points. I tied you for the week with 8. I got a bunch of people who have 8s on the board. We got 1-9. The person who's in second is sneaking up on you a little bit, but you still got a 5-point lead up there in first place. Arun and myself are down at 95. Dujane is at 92. Hertz at 89. Seth is 92. DC's People's Champ is at 81. So that's kind of how the leaderboard stacks up for that. The other thing is the big news I shared on our podcast page today, and it's getting a ton of buzz. So I hope that people can check that out. If you're a Washington Capitals fan, you'll see I posted it in almost every Caps group that I'm in. New Jersey's this sort of retro redo thing that Adidas is doing this year, where every team gets an old style look with a new color scheme and a new kind of take on it. And it's getting very mixed reviews. I would say about 70 to 80%, and we got a lot of response on this. Almost 2,000 people have already seen the post. About 70 to 80% of people seem to really dig it and want to go out and buy one, which is good. But there's definitely a couple people out there that always hated the Screaming Eagle, which is right here if you don't know what the Screaming Eagle is. So it's got the old sort of Washington Capitals dome logo on the shoulders, and it's got that Screaming Eagle on the front, and it's got that red alternate color. So it was classically known with having a white background for the home one and a blue background for the road one. Because back in the day, home was white, road was on the color. They switched that after the lockout. Carol, I don't know if you got a chance to take a look at this design. It's on our page, but it's definitely gotten really, really mixed reviews. Some of the really diehard Capitals fans love it, can't wait to add it to their collection. Some of them want nothing to do with it. So I think that was kind of interesting. Do you have any quick thoughts on it before we move on?
I didn't really get a chance to check them out, but you're always going to have some fans that hate it, some fans that love it. It's one of crying tradition. It's not what it doesn't look right or whatever.
Did you like the Screaming Eagle back in the day, or were you not a fan of the Capitals way back when?
I was a fan. I didn't play as much close as I do now. It wasn't my favorite logo. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't my favorite logo.
Yeah, interesting. All right, well we've got Dugenet on the line now, so I'll let you two chop it up. I'll give my quick take right before we bring him in. Is basically it was a terrible first half and a great second half per usual, and they had to play catch up, and they couldn't, and they did. They caught all the way up, but left a little bit too much time on the clock. But one thing I definitely want you guys to break down is whose fault is it at the end of the game? Should the offense have slowed things down a little bit? Did the defense screw things up? Is it that penalty that gave them the yardage? Is it just an amazing kick? Is it just, it's just frustrating, again, as a fan to get so close and to watch Alex Smith put up some great numbers, but no touchdowns. But I still think it was one of his better games. But I'm excited to get you and Dugenet's take on some of this.
All right, no doubt. Let's go ahead and bring in Dugenet because we got a lot of talking points that we have to go over after this unfortunate loss. You talked about the last second. Like I said, I didn't really get a chance to watch the whole game, so I'm going to defer to you a lot on this Dugenet. But I'm going to just give my quick synopsis of some of the things that I did get to see and the highlights of some of the things that I've read. Like Robbie said, once again, the offense started out slow. We're down 24-3 before they scored a touchdown with like 3 minutes left in the 2.5 minutes left in the third quarter. And they had to try to mount a comeback and play like a real football team. And instead of doing it for 60 minutes like we saw them do against the Cowboys, the last 2 weeks we've seen these, half of games instead of the full effort. Now, like I said, I haven't looked at the whole tape, which I will be doing tomorrow on my day off, so I can, just for my own records, because I need to do that. But it's just, a lot of folks are saying it's coming down to the Chase Young penalty, which did aid in the attempted long field goal, but then the 9-yard pass to Marvin Jones with the soft coverage, that definitely something that drew a red flag to me. The non-balance on offense. I know they were behind, but to see Alex Smith throwing the ball, 55 times, that's not a good sign at any point. And we'll talk more about more details. But Dugenet, how you doing tonight, bro? And let me get your synopsis of this game and the situation of what you saw out there on the football field.
It's pretty much of the same for this football team. A lot of missed opportunities, a slow start once again. They have to get off to a quicker start. We all know that. We've been saying that for weeks now. I know people say they play the second half of football, but I offensively they played a quarter and a half. In my opinion, they played a quarter and a half. They got behind, and the deficit was too great. Some of the same things that we've been talking about on defense really is the reason why they were behind early. Simple things. It's linebackers not being where they need to be, especially in the run game. Guys are over pursuing or trying to do too much. They just get caught just out of position. Like I said, a little okey doke, and the guy, what would be a 3-yard run is now 7-8 yards. So, they have to tackle better. And the secondary, if your secondary can't do some of the complicated things, then they shouldn't do them. And this is another thing that we've been saying with Greg Minunsky. That was the biggest problem of having guys do things that they're not really good at doing. And that's where we're at. So Alex Smith throwing 55 times, you talked about it. I don't like it either. That's too many times for any quarterback. I don't care if it's Tom Brady, Drew Brees, 55 times is a lot. Sometimes you're going to have to do that, but this can't be an every week thing where you're throwing the ball 40 times or more. For that, I guess you have to give him a little credit. They didn't turn the ball over, so having to throw it that many times. But, wow. Pretty much of the same, man. It's much of the same this week. And I really don't think we can say over the past 2 or 3 weeks, especially since the Dallas game, that there has been any improvement. So, we're kind of sitting in a pattern. We see flashes, but nothing consistent. And that's the word for Washington, consistency and the lack of consistency. If they put together some level of consistency, then they could be in ball games, and some of these games they could have won. I mean, that's what I understand why fans are frustrated too, because you're only losing by a few points. But the fact of the matter is you're giving up a lot early, and they're just not good enough to overcome those things.
Yeah, it's I've been seeing a lot of the same sentiment being said by most of the defenders. Excuse me, that folks aren't staying true to their assignments and aren't doing what they're supposed to do. And it isn't that in the second half that all of a sudden things are miraculously changed. It's basically that the coaches are snapping on folks and reiterating to do your job and be where you're supposed to be, and take care of your responsibility. I saw, we had another injury in the secondary with Dejazer Everett with a high ankle sprain. I saw they said that Kendall Fuller's going to be playing more time at the safety spot. And I just think with the infusion of youth and with some of the injuries and the lackluster play at linebacker is what's leading them to have these slow starts on defense or have these sporadic starts on defense. With the offense, I'm not sure what it is. Is it that the defenses are playing prevent defense and then the offense gets going in the second half because the defense isn't as aggressive? Or is it that, they're still learning and Smith is getting them, in a different perspective and a different, look and a different mentality with him being a veteran? Because one thing I did notice in the stats that some of the more wide receivers were involved in this game, knowing they were coming from behind, throwing the ball more. But you saw the ball getting spread out and giving the players a chance to make plays, and that's the one thing that the team has been missing at the quarterback spot for a while. As a team, a quarterback that can put the ball in space or put it, it gives the receiver a chance to make moves or get extra yards or be a game breaker that he is. So I did notice that. So I'm anxious to see how they would do next week with them giving Alex another week, him 2 weeks under, getting first team reps. Just like, Kyle Allen looked better when he had 2 weeks straight of first team reps. And, hopefully they won't have a slow start coming out against Cincy. And but we'll talk about that later on. What stuck out to you in the first half with the offense that you think was the problem? Do you think it was the game plan? Do you think it was the run-pass balance? Do you think it was just a flawed game plan from the break? Or Detroit, just had their number? Because I saw they were in within the 30-yard line, 30 for 4 times, and only came around coming away with 3 points.
It boils down to I don't even know if I want to blame it on play calling as much as I would like to put it on tempo, because it seemed like late in that third quarter, you start to see a little bit of tempo. You start to see them really get in and out of the huddle quickly. Because, the first half, Alex is making quick decisions. What you are noticing, though, and we talked about this last Monday, the difference between Smith and Haskins. Smith makes very quick decisions, and sometimes those decisions are too quick. If you wait a little bit, maybe you catch that guy like McLaurin or Sims flashing just enough past the defender to throw him open for a deeper throw, but you throw it to a J.D. McKissick or a Gibson early because it is open and you're making that decision quickly. Fine. That's where you get the dink and dunk offense from. He makes very quick decisions. Sometimes I believe they're too quick. Those too quick decisions, you're hoping and banking on guys to make that first guy miss. And a lot of times that's not happening. So you're developing a lot of 3 and outs. The bad field position doesn't help. And then when they go 3 and out and the defense early in the ball game, they should be fresh enough to be able to handle this. They allow the opposing team to march right down the field. And even if it's not a score, you're always playing bad. You're playing the field position battle and you're losing. And your opponent is getting excellent field position. And eventually, over time, when the opponent gets these short fields, eventually they're going to score. So I think that's what it has to do with. The defense has to do their part. Can't allow these quick early scores. I mean, we're talking 14 points early. There wasn't really enough to say, okay, Washington's offense is slow, but I mean, darn it, you got to stop somebody. And they're not doing that consistent enough. Again, the word consistency. So is it a bad game plan the first half? I don't think the game plan was poor. I just think that with Alex, you're going to get some quick decisions made. Some of those decisions don't result into the positive results you like to see. Can you flip around some of these play calls and maybe get some more designs that enable guys to come in off of slants or drag routes? Possibly. So we'll see. But like I said, I don't think the game plan was bad at all. And they proved that in the second half when the tempo picked up a little bit more. They were doing some of the same things. It's just that the tempo was better. They were a little bit more sharp. And they it seemed like they were running the offense with a purpose. It seems like a little lazy in the first 2.5 quarters.
Okay. Another side note, I saw that Dustin Hopkins missed another chip shot field goal. Where it is, they're thinking about bringing in some kickers to replace him. But Rivera said, he wants to have an experienced kicker because Hopkins, even though he does miss something that he shouldn't, I think he said he missed a field goal in the last 6 out of 9 games. He's been one of the more accurate kickers we've had since we've had him. And what always happens when we cut them, they go somewhere else and become all-stars and Super Bowl champions. So, I mean, sometimes you got to weather the storm. I still remember back to David Akers when they cut him, and he's killed us for years and years and years with the Eagles. So,
what about Graham Gano? Right, recently,
like I said, it's a long history and track record. So that's why I tell fans sometimes, just he's human. Kickers are human, just like everybody else. They make mistakes. You can't just keep on.
Don't causing the problems. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so. He missed a couple kicks, and some of them have been crucial. Okay, yeah, it makes a difference. But you know what? If you're not down 21 or 20 points in the first 2 quarters, then you don't have to rely on the kicker. How about not put the kicker in that position to have to be, 1 kick or 1 point away from winning a ball game because he missed a kick early? Kickers are going to go through it. And, every kicker in this league has gone through it this year pretty much, some worse than others. So, for Washington's sake, it really isn't that bad. Get your offense better and put the ball in the end zone, more times than not, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, it's really surprising to me just how far of a hole we put ourselves in. It's frustrating because I know we've got a run game and I know that we've got balance, but we have to go away from it so quickly, so often, just because of the way that the things have materialized, I guess, over the last couple of weeks. And it's frustrating because I feel like Alex Smith put together a better game than Haskins would have. But there are a lot of people online that are, saying, well, Haskins could have done that, blah, 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 blah. I do see them moving the ball. They're just not finishing, or the defense is making stands, but maybe not at the right time exactly. Like, it's become a situation where, if they played like we see that they can do the whole entire time, we would win a lot of these games because they're close. They're just a couple plays away, and that's what's so frustrating.
But that's the progress that's going through getting to know that. And now they've had 3 different quarterbacks throughout the season. So the offense has to adjust. That's why I was saying it's good that Alex is getting first, probably going to get first team reps again. And the offense is probably going to look better because you're seeing a consistent person, and then you're seeing a progression. Allen knew the playbook better, but Smith has been in that playbook, but he has the veteran savvy. Like Dujournay said, he gets rid of the ball quick because he doesn't want to take the sack or make a bad play, but sometimes it's to his detriment. So it's all about figuring itself out. That's why Rivera, as everyone said, he's all over the place. No, he's adapting to the situation that's apparent to him with the change in quarterbacks. He has to change his mentality as a coach when you have three different quarterbacks and three different stages of their careers with three different grasp of the playbook. That's a lot for a coach in the first year to have to adjust to, and the fact that we have seen them fight, come back, even though they've dug themselves into their own hole. You really patting them on the back for screwing up, but they could have just laid down. We could have had the game like they had against Philly on that Monday night when it was like 59 to 20 something on a constant basis. But the fact that they're fighting back, they're trying to find their way and still find their identity, which I keep on trying to echo because it's only week 10 in the first season under Ron Rivera with all of the restrictions and no training camp. So I know it's ugly to watch, but you have to keep that in your mind also. And just to give some quick shout-outs, we got Andy tuning in from over in the UK. Appreciate it. Mark Moore, what's going on? I appreciate the love and support all the time, man. You always tuning in. What's up, Josh? I see you on there. But Dujournay, do you look at it as progress in certain aspects and then finding an identity, or you just see it as, something still isn't right? You can see baby steps, but you think there should be more positive than what we're seeing.
There should be more positive than what we're seeing. I mean, over the last 2 weeks, there has to be way more progression than that. And you give him a little bit of break, Alex coming in after an injury. To piggyback off of what Robbie said, too, you look at all three of these quarterbacks. If you take away all their bad games, they all look the same. The offense moves to a degree. Sure, they move in the ball, but you're not putting it in the end zone. Now, some of that is a correlation of quarterbacks, plays, and the people around them understanding where they need to be as well. I mean, you got JD is constantly getting tripped up by turf monsters. That doesn't help you. Guys not being where they need to be as far as wide receivers go, that doesn't help you. This particular game, though, they had guys like Logan Thomas. They had Cam Sims again, another sighting, which is great. Need that consistency from those guys to help guys like McLaurin get open. If they can develop that and continue to develop that, you'll start to see more of these scoring plays, come in. But I can't sit here and say that there is a progression or progress because we've seen much of the same over the three quarterbacks, even though sometimes it's better than others. But overall, when you look at the offense at its best, under those three quarterbacks, it has been much of the same. So at some point, they have to hone in on what they do well and stick to that. And I feel like sometimes they get away from it quickly. I know fans are thinking that last quarter and a half, why weren't you doing that coming out of the gate in the beginning? That's what's working for this offense. You can tell they look really comfortable. Everybody looks comfortable, from Gibson to McKissick to Cam Sims. You saw Steven Sims Jr. go out there, make some plays. Guys look comfortable when they're doing that. So go about it that way. And you don't go away from what's working when you're in the business of winning football games because you're winning a division. Okay, I'm just trying to go with what Coach is saying here. All right, we're in the business of winning. So if you're in the business of winning, then your game plan should reflect what you're trying to do. And too often, they're coming out here with the same old stuff that they keep beating their heads against the wall trying, and you're down 20 points before you can bat an eye because your defense can't hold water and you can't move the ball, and you're constantly putting the opposing team's offense, in quality field position, giving them points, basically. We're talking about quarterbacks that they're competent. They're not incompetent quarterbacks. So if you're going to give them opportunities over and over again for short fields, they're going to connect every now and then. Blind guy, blind squirrel finding a nut. Well, they're going to find it, and they have early, and then they sit back and governing it back, and a lot of these teams have fallen into their old ways. Detroit, the Giants, they're the same folks. They tend to let off the gas for whatever those reasons are in the late in the thirds and fourth quarters, allowing teams back in the ball games. But you're not going to face that every week, and they're fortunate enough that they haven't been blown slap out because of their slow starts and this game plan of not knowing, I guess, even coaches not knowing what their identity is. I mean, what your players are and what they can and can't do. Put them in position to make plays consistently, not every blue moon so you can go to the press conference and talk about the success you had. Well, we've seen that. We've seen that over the 9 weeks. It's flashes of it. But let's put together some consistency because, again, this word consistency falls in line with what coach is saying, and we're in the business of winning football games because there's a division they're trying to win. So put this quarterback, Alex Smith, who is doing what he does and doing it well, with even throwing it 55 times. Put him in position to win and allow the guys around him to be comfortable because he can get them the ball. They just have to be comfortable. And they looked at late in that third quarter and all of the fourth quarter. It was just too late.
Yeah, real quickly, I just want to – my frustration is, going back to your consistency, we're not seeing good on the offense and defense side at the same time. Like, one will show up for some time and the other will show up. But if they could both show up at the same time, I feel like we could win a bunch of these football games. And so that's the frustrating part for me is, like, the defense I know is good enough, but there are times where they just lapse, right? And then same thing with the offense. I know that they're good enough. They're marching down the field. They get all the yardage, but then they can't finish the drive for whatever reason. And it's just frustrating as a fan. So I can understand where it is, but I feel that it is different than what we saw under Jay Gruden. Like, I can see this system working, and it just needs some more time.
Year. So that's something I get the frustration because we've always seen this team struggle getting into the when they get in the red zone and getting touchdowns and not getting field goals. So, I mean, they put up, 47 points in the last 2 weeks. Granted, garbage time, they were down big, but they're moving the ball. They're becoming more oriented as an offense, but like you said, Dujane, why can't they do that from the first quarter, not just in the last quarter and a half of the game? So hopefully, as we spoke about, that's why I didn't like that bye week after the Cowboys game, because I felt like they had some good momentum after that game, because that was the only game of the season where, Robbie, as you said, the offense and defense played well, and they played for 60 minutes. And I think that bye week kind of messed up the momentum that they had, because if they went into the following week after riding high off of that win and seeing what happens when you play a full game and do your job and stay responsible, then it would have, stuck with them. I just think it stagnated them, and now we're having to see it build back up again to them finally the light bulb coming back on for them to play a whole 60 minutes. Be like, okay, this is what happens when we do what we're supposed to do. We have to get consistent at doing it, and unfortunately, it's a young team with a lot of different stuff going on. I saw that Morgan Moses switched to left tackle at some point in the game, which I definitely got to go watch and see how he played the left tackle. Because, Dujane, I might as well ask you, see what your interpretation was before I watched. How do you think he played at left tackle?
I thought he did well. I mean, to have to move inside like that, after being outside most of the game, I thought he held his own. And really, that enabled a lot of times. There were a couple plays that that they made just to keep Alex alive, so that he could make some plays when they needed him. But he did well. To talk about just an example of where they're at as a team. When you look at that play with Kendall Fuller and Jimmy Moreland, I believe that was the 14th point for Detroit. And people will say, well, what the heck was Jack Del Rio calling there? Why would you do that and have Fuller drop back into the safety position and have basically Moreland loop to catch the outside guy? Well, Moreland knows where he's supposed to be, so his objective is to get there. Doesn't matter what the receiver's doing. He knows where he has to be, and he has to get ahead of that receiver. Now, he was late. It wasn't a bad call. It wasn't a bad design. He was late. And a veteran quarterback saw that, tagged it up, threw it over the top, and got a touchdown. Now, if Moreland gets there on time and just does his job, get to his spot. Now, if Stafford thinks he's going to be late, now Moreland becomes the receiver and not the defender, because he's going to be there right where the ball is supposed to go. But Moreland was thinking rather than reacting to what he's supposed to do. Fuller did his job. Moreland did not. But that's the confines of learning these different things, these young guys learning different things and understanding and being confident in where they're supposed to be, other than understanding that, okay, I have to be there, but I'm not sure when I'm supposed to go, how quickly am I supposed to go there, all of those parameters, how deep am I supposed to be, where I'm supposed to go, whatever. So if he had did that right, likely that's a breakup or possibly a pick, because he becomes the offensive player instead of the defensive player. So that's one example of many examples just defensively of what we're seeing when we have these lapses. It's not so much of the calling as it is just the execution is just not crisp. It's a little late. And when you're late with quarterbacks that know where they're supposed to go with the football and are confident in doing that, they're going to beat you up a lot.
No doubt. It's curtains every time, because that's what they do. That's their job. They wait for that weakness or see that flaw or see that misstep, and they take advantage of it. So it is a frustrating situation, because every time I think that they've turned the corner or they'll be able to build off of some of the limited success that they've had, they found the way to screw it up with penalties or bad plays or miscues or bad timing and turnovers. I'm still not at the point where I'm frustrated enough to, be upset about it and, be mad at the team or think they suck and all this. Now, I still feel like you see progress is just, like you say, not consistent enough. It's sporadic. That just goes from, as you say, folks still thinking and not reacting. And, in the lost season, I'm not really mad as long as we continue to see progress. Now, I'm hoping next week against Cincy, we'll see, at least a full 3 quarters of football. I'm not going to get over anxious and think they're going to give us a full 60 minutes of football after what we saw. Well, after what I'm about to see, they played this past Sunday. But
Carol, clearly we're bad luck if we both don't watch the first half, though. So neither of us watched it, and I had a COVID test for my job. Things you have to do. Carol was working too, and sometimes, unfortunately, we weren't in the right spot. So maybe next week we'll be able to tune in.
I watched the game last week, and I wasn't any different. So
that's true.
It's. I mean, I think they're going to be all right. I think they're going to be all right. I mean, Alex Smith. I think he's definitely going to see a better performance. Well, he played a good game. Didn't have any touchdowns or interceptions. Like I said, got to get in the end zone. I saw some of the plays that Dugenais mentioned about him getting rid of the ball a little quickly, throwing to the running back just to get the ball out when there were some receivers open. If he would have just, looked a little downfield or stayed his eyes downfield a little bit longer. But I'm hoping to see a better game against Cincy next week. Dugenais, I know you said you have limited time. I know we got some folks on the line waiting there. We got some boxing to talk about. Let the folks know what you're working on next and what you got coming up so you can go ahead and head on out and we can get DC's People Champ up in here.
Well, we should have another show coming up this week. We're going to be talking about different topics around the league. If you didn't catch last week's show, episode 33, I really talked about the NFL's policy on minority hiring or the lack thereof. So you'll get me and Karita's take on that there. Among other few things on the Washington football team and the New Orleans Saints. I'll be doing some ghost casts on the Washington football team and the New Orleans Saints coming up this week. So if you're an Apple subscriber, get on that ghost cast app, set up yourself an account, and go look there. And it's an open forum, so you too can also voice your opinions on your football team or on any football team or simply on the NFL. There's a lot of topics there if you go there and look. I'm on there, and I'll be on there this week doing those things there. You can always follow me at NotBland21 and on Twitter, and that's everywhere. And I love talking shop with you guys. And as always, man, appreciate you guys having me on. It's always a blast.
Thank you so much. Well, hopefully next week in Cincinnati we'll have a victory to finally talk about. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done that, but I appreciate your time as always, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, dude. Have a good night, bro. I'll talk to you, man.
You too, brother.
All right, later.
All right, so I think that we'll bring in DC's People's Champ now and get his take. Oh, he's got the Superfly Caps jersey. He's rocking the red. Real quickly, have you seen the jersey that I posted all over social media?
I took a quick glance at it. I had a pretty busy day at work and then preparing for this weekend with no spots, but I did take a quick glance at it. I like them. They look really dope. I actually want one.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
I want one too. I'm thinking about getting a Tom Wilson one. So it's I think he would look pretty fly in one of those. So.
Yeah, no, I like from what I saw. I like what I saw.
For sure. Well, I like you rocking the red and the championship belt as always. So I don't know if you got to check out the whole game. I know that Carol and I only got to see parts of it. But what was your take on this Washington football team?
So I checked out the first half, but I missed most of the third and parts of the fourth because I was driving from my apartment to my parents' house to pick up my son from him visiting them. And then when I got in the house, when I left my apartment, they only had 3 points on the board. So I thought this was over. And I was even in the car listening to the New Japan tournament that just started that day, catching up on that. I get in the house, and it was tied. I was like, wait, what happened? But from what I saw, I got to agree with everybody here that the consistency is where the issue is here. The offense needs to figure out who they are. The defense they kind of had an identity, and it seems like they've kind of gotten away from that from a fan's perspective. And so that's what it is right there, is that consistency has to be the number one factor here. Once you figure out what works for you, stick with it. Don't deviate away or anything like that. And just, again, this is something that's been echoed so many times on this podcast and online and things like that, is just having an identity. And this team is still figuring that out. But I'm still practicing patience because I look at teams of the past who are now juggernauts, like the Patriots, though this year not so much, but they were trash for decades before they became a juggernaut. The Saints were trash for a long time, to the point people came to the stands with paper bags over their heads. They didn't want to be known as Saints fans, wanted to be identified as Saints fans. Look at them now. They're always in contention for the division almost every year. Tampa Bay, they have up and down seasons, but they're a lot better than what they used to be. So I'm looking at these teams, I'm saying, we have hope. We've had 20-plus years of futility with a couple good seasons sprinkled in there. Our time is coming. And when it happens, this league's not going to be ready for it. I'm telling you this.
It's funny that you say that, because the thing is, Capitals, Mystics, and Nationals, all these champions in this district of champions, right? They all went through that, right? The Capitals were around for so long before they ever did anything. The Mystics never won one before. The Nationals never won one. And both of those franchises have been around for over a decade. So I totally agree that you kind of have to go through that. I think some of the Washington football team fans, they had all these championships in the 80s and 90s, early 90s, and they thought that was going to keep on going, right? They just didn't expect to have that and then fall off, right? I think that's sort of been a big-time struggle for a lot of fans to sort of, cope around. It's funny because you mentioned that you saw the first half of it and then came into it. I sat down. I had to pick up my son, and then I had a quick COVID test, and then I came home, and I turned it on at halftime. And so all I watched was them coming back. My wife was playing a video game. She wasn't even paying attention She was like, "Oh man, this game is over. You're down 21 points." She goes into a game of Dead by Daylight, comes out of it, and she says, "Wait, you guys are tied?" Like she was so just like you did, where it's like, "What happened?" And I was like, they showed up all of a sudden. They showed up. They could put 3 consecutive play defense, get the ball back, march down the field, score a touchdown. And they did it 3 times in a row, and suddenly they had a ball game. I wish that we could see that earlier. And it's frustrating.
It's all going to come. Just like you have a coordinator that's still trying to find his way. Who we saw how it was with Jay for 6 years. How he never learned his lesson and never learned from his mistakes. But then I'm hopeful that Scott Turner is going to at least he's incorporating the things that that are helping this team progress in those times when they're already down. So Terry McLaurin had a 27-yard jet sweep. I've seen more. I'm not gonna say misdirection, but you see them moving the pocket, moving the quarterback off of the same spot, which I'm glad they're doing because we don't have any more quarterbacks that can continue to get hurt because they're in the same spot every time, and the offensive line isn't equipped to have a quarterback throwing the ball 55 times in a game. But it's just a frustrating process because of all the processes the fans have went through over the last 20, 30 years of dysfunction. And it's like, you're hearing the same thing and seeing the same product, and you're like, you're tired of hearing it, which I get it. Like I said, winning cures all. When they start winning on a consistent basis, then, the flaws and some of the issues that the team still has won't get talked about as much because they're celebrating the victory. So it's just the fact that all the stuff that's been going on for as long as it's been going on, and folks get frustrated with it. But like I said, I get it, man. I get it. I totally understand it.
Mark my words. Mark my words. I say in 3 years, and I know this fan base don't want to hear this because they want to have the blinders on. They want to be all roses and rainbows. But let's be realistic. I give it 3 years, and this team is going to be one of the top teams in the league in 3 years. Mark my words. Like Hurt always says, remember I said this. 3 years, and I'll be happy to be wrong if it's less than that. But I say in 3 years, this team is going to be always in contention for the East. It's going to be one of the top teams in the league.
Yeah, I think that that's enough time to build an identity with the coach. I can see that, taking a couple of years. It's just hard because there's so few football games. People want to win now. It's a struggle for the fan base to get over themselves, I think, in a big way, and understand that there is a future to be had here where under Jay Gruden there was no future, right? I mean, every week we're like, fire this guy. But it takes time to build an identity, and it takes time to put all of this together. It's just, I think watching it unfold in front of you weekly is difficult for people who want them to win now. And they pay a lot of money for like an Alex Smith, right? We have a ton of cap space in that where we really have a ton of spots that need help. I think our offensive line needs help. I think we need another wide receiver. I think potentially maybe even another tight end. And all these things cost a lot of money, and there's a lot of money tied up in Alex Smith right now. And I like him, and I think that he could do it, but he's got to come through in the clutch if we're going to be putting all that money, all the eggs in one basket, so to speak. And Carol, how do you sort of rectify that?
I mean, with the Alex Smith situation, I was going to speak about. I forgot to speak about that when Dujournay was on, with him saying that there is a potential for Smith being a franchise quarterback for this team going forward. Depending on different circumstances, and I'm sure the contract situation is one of those circumstances that he was speaking of. Honestly, asking Alex Smith to be the franchise quarterback for this team right now to me seems unrealistic, being his age and where this team is and where they're trying to go. I feel he's a good stopgap quarterback for the next. I would like to see Haskins again this season. But if we continue to see the offense mature and progress and maybe, start playing more than just a quarter and a half and start playing a more consistent game, then I say stick with Alex and then go into next year with open competition. If Alex wants to, stay, he take his pay cut, or make a, extension, a cap-friendly extension or whatever. But I just think Rivera is just keeping his options open because he doesn't know what he has because of the whole situation with this whole season. So, I mean, he's not going to declare anything until he feels comfortable that he can make an educated decision based off all the factors and everything that's going on, and it's just too many other intangibles that's included in the seats for him to come out and say definitely what he think is going to work to make this thing get back on the right track. And I have no problem with that. I'd rather have a coach that's adapting to the situation week by week and trying to see what works than have a coach, as we've seen with Jay Gruden, stuck in and dug in the same way. Oh, it's going to work. It's going to work when you do it my way, if you do it my way right. Well, we've been doing it your way for the longest time, and if they can't get it right under 6 different seasons, maybe you need to change something that you're doing as the coach. And that's what Rivera's doing.
Well, it's funny when Robbie mentioned the whole money situation. I read the article about that earlier, and I'm looking at it right now. It says that Smith will account for $24.4 million, $24.4 million cap hit next season. But if he's cut, it'll be a dead cap hit of only $10.8 million, according to Spot Track. And that's one of the things. But another thing that Rivera does look at is Smith's age, with him being 36. He said, quote, "You've got to look at how much longer you think he can play, how much longer does he want to play." And Smith has said that he would wait until the offseason to make a decision on his future in the NFL.
And that all makes total sense. I think I don't know. The problem with this season is you don't know, based on the injuries that have happened to this team, the fact that they dealt with COVID, a brand new coach, the changing of the name, a coach dealing with cancer, and the special story of Alex Smith coming back from injury. I mean, there's so many components. It's such an odd year for so many reasons, such an odd year in general across the NFL. But then you throw on all of what I just mentioned that's unique to our team. And it's frustrating because it's just like, what can you take away from this season going forward? I mean, you're trying to have progress, but like, what is it, because it's this odd season, or what is it? Is there something systematically that Carol was talking about earlier wrong with the team? So like, it's just really hard to diagnose because there's just so many variables at play.
Exactly.
We'll say though that this team has handled the whole COVID situation very well. I don't think we've heard of one positive COVID test from this team this season. I don't think. So
and I'll be
that's
curious
one less thing.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if they allow fans in games coming up here, right? Because Maryland's going back down to crackdown. Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. I think they should just cut it right now. I think that they got lucky if they didn't have any cases at a couple of times that they were able to open it up a little bit. But I hope that they continue to not have any situations. It's funny that we talked about the bye week a little earlier. Carol was saying that you thought that it happened at a time that kind of stifled momentum. And I find it very frustrating. I find some seasons we have the bye way too early where I don't feel like that's helpful at all. Sometimes it stifles momentum. Sometimes it never seems to fall in the right spot for the Washington football team. It always seems to like hinder us in somehow. And it's sort of weird because for other teams, they seem to rest up during the bye week and come out of it on fire. And every year, it's like it never seems like it happens in the right time. Carol, do you have any idea why that could be?
I mean, under Gruden, it was lack of preparation no matter what. So, I mean, that situation come out of bye when they didn't have good practices on a regular schedule. And then you can give a team, a soft week schedule where they don't have to play. And then coming back and expecting to be prepared when they already can't prepare, when they're in the rhythm and in the groove of the season. And expect them to come back after a week off and be crisp. We never saw that under Jay because he lacked adjustments. With this being the first season under Rivera in the game we saw against the Giants after the bye, it was disappointing to see him, start out that way with all the turnovers. But, they had pretty much taken care of the ball pretty well throughout the season. So, I mean, unfortunately with young teams, it just happens like that sometimes. So it's all you can do is hope that they get the consistency together and that they can, build off the small successes that they have and start making it bigger successes. And that's how you build a winning team, by like Dujane said, finding the things that work for you, doing those things well, and then once you start doing those things well, you're making the other team adjust to what you're doing. Then you're allowed to do other things because you can make things look like the stuff that they're having trouble stopping in the same formations with different play calls or different schemes or whatever. And that's how you open up your team, open up your offense, and that gives your defense time to rest and make adjustments to whatever the other team's offense is doing. and that's when everything works and it's beautiful. We see it against, with other teams all the time, and unfortunately we haven't seen it here. But hopefully that's what they're building towards. That's all. That's all we can ask for, and that's all we can hope for. I'm just hoping he has the opportunity to make that happen, because I feel like he's the right coach that can make that happen.
All right. Before, I know that we have people's time is short. We got boxing coming up. The DC People Champ. I'm going to ask you one last question about this, and then I want to get your thoughts on the No Spots podcast and all the wrestling that's happening in this world in a brief, condensed segment. But real quickly, my question about the Washington football team. Going forward, we're playing Cincinnati, who actually had an interesting game, I thought, against Pittsburgh, and that they looked pretty decent early on, and then Pittsburgh just asserted its dominance, as they have over every team this year. But Cincinnati's going to come in this game angry, coming after that game. And we're going to be frustrated, too, because of, we've been losing these heartbreaking games. What do you see happening in this matchup?
Well, I mean, when you come off of allowing a Detroit Lions team to drive down the field and kick a 59-yard field goal in 15 seconds, that's going to piss you off. I mean, that would piss me off, to know that we had them basically by the crosshairs to go into overtime, and they basically dodged it and won the game. But Cincy's is going to be equally mad because they went up against a division rival and got rocked. They got absolutely rocked. Joe Burrow has been playing very good football in his rookie season. I mean, the kid is unbelievable, and he's got a good offense over there. That defense is not a world beater, but if this offense can't get on a roll and get going early, then it might be tough for this team to be able to stop and to defeat Cincinnati. I'm actually thinking that Washington can win this game, but it has to start with a fast start. They can't allow themselves to, like other games, get down early, especially against someone like Joe Burrow, who has a pretty good running game and is back playing so well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm going to ask Harold real quickly his thoughts on that Cincinnati game, and then I'm going to let you do a plug for No Spots before we end this segment. But Carol, what are your thoughts on playing this Cincinnati team that just got its butt handed to them by Pittsburgh? But I mean, we've seen rookie quarterbacks, they seem to do crazy things against our team, and Joe Burrow fits that mold to a T.
Definitely, that's the intriguing part about this matchup. You already know it's number 1 pick versus number 2 pick, so they're going to hype that up. He's going to want to, prove the point of why he was number 1. And it's all going to come down to execution in this team, playing like a team, being responsible for their assignments, doing their job, doing it properly, and executing. And until they can do that, you're not going to see this team win consistently, no matter who the opponent is. And we've seen that when lesser opponents have come in this year with the Giants. They had no wins. They came in, they had 1 win that was against us, and then they left with 2 wins. So it's all about what this team wants to be, and now at this point in the season, and that's what it's coming down to. Their want, their will, and how much they want to be better and get better. So, I mean, all we can do is wait and see. We believe we have the right coach in the position to motivate them and to get them in the right mindset and to change the culture of what's been around this place for the longest time. So, I mean, all we can do is hope that they can, learn and start to build the chemistry and build the what's the proper word? Let's just say execute the playbook the way it should be, and don't make these dumb mistakes, dumb penalties, and shooting themselves in the foot by, going 3 and out on a regular basis. Play a full game, and, hopefully we'll see a better product.
Right. No, and I agree with you. I think sort of one last sort of follow-up point that I want to, make is I think it's how do I phrase it? It's frustrating because I think that there's opportunities for growth here, and there's what do we need to see from Alex Smith in this game to make him put him in that big time rivalry game against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, because this is our tune-up game for Thanksgiving, right? So this is the last game before that. So I'm going to ask each one of you guys your thoughts on that. What do you need to see from Alex Smith to have, or do you think Alex Smith gets both games no matter what, or is there a situation where you think Haskins may see that Thanksgiving game? I'll start with you, Carol.
I think he just has to get touchdowns. Get him in the end zone, And I think they're probably going to have him play both. I don't think they will put Haskins in that situation on a short week, not getting first team reps, just being back to the backup position because Kyle Allen got hurt. I don't think they would do that. So I think Smith is going to get both of them, especially with him now getting first team reps. And we saw how well the offense could move if they play correctly. So all we can do is see if this team can get off too, because they're a different team when they have a lead than from when they're playing behind. The whole game plan is different. We saw that in the Cowboys game. Scott Turner called I'm not going to say a great game, but he called it an above average game for what we've seen so far, and it worked in their favor. So it's a lot different coaching and calling the plays from ahead than it is behind. So they have to do their best to get off to a fast start offensively, or the defense has to find a way to force a turnover early. Maybe if you get a pick six from a recovery, or at least get the ball away from the other team early to help give the offense momentum, instead of the offense trying to find a way to get momentum going and from behind 14 to 21 points.
Yeah, I'll ask you really quickly, DC's People's Champ. What are your thoughts? Is there any chance that we see Haskins barring an injury, or is it just is it Alex Smith show for the next 2 games? How do you see it?
I agree with Carol. You're not going to put Haskins in on a short week against your division rival, who you already have trounced this season, but you're going into hostile territory. No, you're not going to do it. Smith has thrown for 300-plus yards the last 2 games. He didn't throw any touchdowns this game. He threw only 1 the last game. I think that they stick with him, especially if he has a very good game against the Cincinnati defense that, again, like I said, they're not world beaters. They're not going to go out there and just blow the doors off. If he goes out there and throws, even if he doesn't throw for 300 yards, he throws like 2 or 3 touchdowns and doesn't have any turnovers, you definitely will see him in Dallas. Now, again, barring injury, you may see Haskins if Smith gets injured, unfortunately. But I agree with Carol. You're not going to see Haskins in these next 2 games.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, well, before we let you go, DC's People's Champ, let people know the world of wrestling and what you're going to be talking about on the No Spots podcast.
Well, it's a busy time in wrestling. In New Japan, their World Tag League and Best of the Super Juniors tournament has just begun. So myself and Sage, who is our New Japan contributor, will be talking about that over the weeks to come. The first episode recapping this first week will come up this coming Monday. Of course, this Sunday we have our regular podcast with myself and Sith. And then Sunday night, beginning at 6:25 Eastern on our Facebook page, facebook.com/NoSpotsPod. Myself and Sith will be live with you to live react to WWE Survivor Series 2020 Best of the Best. And if anybody wants to join and chat with us, we'll have the chat with the comments open, and you can come and give us questions, comments, everything like that. But it is definitely a busy time. It's going to be a busy time for the next month in terms of New Japan and then everything else.
Sounds good. It's awesome that you guys do those live shows. I've seen people tune in and comment live on them, and that's really cool that they can, if they want that experience. And I wish that we had more time to talk, more sports on this thing. I'm so happy that you guys can take that mantle and lift it up for all of the different wrestling shows and really break it down. So No Spots Podcast, you can catch it on any of the podcast platforms. And appreciate you as always, Champ, and we'll talk to you next week.
Indeed, thank you. And I just want to say that Paul, like I told him a couple weeks ago, his girl, Lady Tapa, looked really, really good in her All Elite Wrestling debut. I'm looking forward to seeing more of her.
Hey, that's my homegirl, man. So next time I see her, I'll see if I can get an autograph. I think she got an AEW figurine now too. So when I run into her again, I'll see what's up to see if I can grab an autograph from her for you.
That's what's up, man. I would appreciate that, man.
Yes, sir. You my man, so you know I got you.
Appreciate you, man. Have a good show.
My man.
All right. That's awesome. The voice of Paul has joined us. So I'm going to actually let you guys have a conversation back and forth about boxing. I'm going to bow out for a little bit. But, Paul, I'm super excited that you're on, and I'll be definitely listening even if my camera isn't on.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Look, real quick, I told Carl I'd keep this brief. I've been called the Carolina Panthers insider for Sports on the Hill and for other shows. So I advocated for Ron Rivera going all the way back. Just before I get started, real quick, can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, you good, bro. You good.
Okay. I advocated him before he got hired. So let me tell you, this is what pisses me off about Redskins fans, and I said this before. you expect results, and not y'all, not talking about y'all. Redskins fans expect immediate results with a mediocre roster, with a quarterback that has already been deemed to have had work ethic reputation issues. And I'm not saying I believe them all because we know how that goes. But at the same time, you got multiple different coaching administrations saying the same thing, right? So I was listening to another sports show this morning, and I had to tweet. Some guy called the show and said, Ron Rivera has never been shown to be able to develop a quarterback. And I said, well, goddamn, didn't he develop Cam Newton? So, look, sometimes you got to put a quarterback down to put him in their place, to make them realize this is an opportunity. Maybe you should get serious. Now, I'm not saying that's what Ron's doing with Dwayne, but like I've heard people say in the past, they see Dwayne more than we do. We also got to take into the fact that Ron didn't get to bring in all of his own guys. Virtual draft. You didn't get to really see guys in person in your own personal workouts and combines. You didn't get to really work with these guys in the summer. You didn't really get to talk to these guys. And we got Scott Turner. Now, I know that's North Turner's son, first the offensive coordinator. He learned a lot under North Turner. But here's the thing. He still got to learn. Just like Robbie said, we want to see development, and we're starting to see development in terms of being able to put points up. Too bad it's, not for a full 4 quarters. I remember there was a time when people said we should fire Kyle Shanahan, Scott LaFleur, and what's the other guy from what's the other head coach right now that's doing big? Sean McVay.
Yeah.
Now look at him. Sean McDermott, old Carolina defensive coordinator. Look what he's doing in Buffalo. So again, they're talking about fire Ron Rivera. I've heard people say it. So I'm like, okay, so who we bring in then? I'm like this. The man, give him time. Maybe he can turn Dwayne into something. He lost his quarterback. People don't want to hear it. Kyle Landry, I saw him play here. The dude did solid ball until he fell apart. He was actually the best quarterback for the job if Dwayne wasn't ready. He didn't want to put Alex in, but who the hell else he going to put in there? Brian Mitchell? And like you guys said, man, you're not going to throw Dwayne back in there against, a hostile team. So, I don't know, man. I'm not exactly happy with what happened with Dwayne. I hope he can end up developing. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen in New Orleans because if Jameis Winston shows that he can lead the Saints to something special, are they going to let Drew Brees retire and resign him, or is he going to hit the market and will the Skins be interested in him? And if so, he'll be another Dwayne because we know he got problems too. So, one more comment. We got 3 of the same running back, but yet we expect different results from a new offensive coordinator. It's like, come on, man. Give him time. Give him at least 3 years. How many years did we give Jay Gruden?
Exactly. Oh, just the fact that you brought up Winston and saying that he might be able to lead the Saints. That dude, yeah, I'm not even gonna get into that. I got my own opinions on that dude from ever since he been.
You don't want to come to Maryland where we got crab legs. Exactly. Y'all remember that story?
Say he wants to be stealing crab legs again, man. Being in the news for all the wrong reasons, man. I ain't got time for that, man. That dude just has. So if you think Haskins has a so-called reputation for bad work habits, he's the definition of bad work habits. So that'd be like
the epitome of it.
Yeah, I don't even want to even think about him coming to DC as a quarterback. Unless he going to the I forgot the damn the semi-pro team.
The DC Defenders.
The Defenders. It's been so long since we covered them. I forgot the name of the damn team. That's sad. This COVID 2020 is a mug, bro. I swear I forgot the damn name of the team. But let's talk about what we really got you on here tonight, talking about this great boxing match we had this past weekend. I didn't get to see it live because the college football game went long. The whole card got pushed back, and by the time the fight came on, I had dozed off. And when I woke up, miraculously, it's right after Crawford had knocked out Brooke. But Paul, let's go ahead and break down this fight and any other fights on the undercard you got a chance to check out.
First, I got to give props to my Miami Hurricanes. They pulled it off against Virginia Tech. So I'm still waiting for them to get it together. And until Nick Saban retires and until Clemson decides to fall off, I don't think Miami ever going to be able to win another national championship. But that's besides the point. We have me on here for boxing. I'm going to talk my boxing. All right, Carl. Last week, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I said 4th round knockout by Crawford. I wanted to get cute. I changed it to 5th round knockout, whatever. right? I said it was going to be from the southpaw. I called a liver shot. Now, I said that for a specific reason, and I thought it was going to happen. So before anybody trashed Kell Brook, I've been a Kell Brook supporter for a very long time. People that don't follow boxing don't know. You have British fighters that are British caliber fighters like Amir Khan that can do great things over there. And you got British fighters that are world-class fighters like Lennox Lewis, Anthony Joshua, and Kell Brook. Kell Brook beat Sean Porter and won his first world title. I mean, his WBO welterweight title. Sean Porter don't just lose to any old body, right? So, you know, he ended up jumping up three weight classes, divisions to fight Triple G. Triple G, mind you, this is before Triple G fought Canelo. This is when Triple G was knocking people and making their ears bleed. Nobody else would take that fight. Chris Eubank dropped out, so Kell Brook took it. It was dangerous, but I told people, I said, look, Kell Brook gonna give Triple G a hell of a fight, and if Triple G take him lightly, Kell Brook could knock his ass out. And I'm gonna tell you, there was a time when I thought during that fight that Kell Brook actually was going to do it. He gave Triple G the fight of his life, bloodied his face up. Sadly, Triple G hits like a tank and actually fractured Kell Brook's face. And Kell Brook didn't quit. His corner threw in the towel because they recognized him. That was his first loss. He immediately went to fight Errol Spence. He immediately after that fight fought Errol Spence, gave him 11 rounds. And Errol Spence will tell you, you know I love Errol Spence. To me, Errol Spence behind Canelo Alvarez is my number 2 pound for pound best fighter, and that's even ahead of Bud. And I love Bud. You know I love Bud. Yeah. But Errol Spence, well, you know what? Let me change that. I'm going to have Errol Spence at number 3 until I see how he looks against Danny Garcia, because Errol Spence is coming off that car wreck, and I want to see if he has any negative results. So I'll put Crawford above Spence for now, right? But he gave Errol Spence the fight of his life. Errol Spence said it himself, Slim, this is the hardest fight I ever had. Errol Spence ended up fracturing the other side of Kell Brook's face. So Kell Brook ended up, 39-2, former champion, lost to Triple G that he came up 3-weight class to fight, lost to Errol Spence, who is Errol Spence. You know, he won a couple fights since then on the bounce back. People thought he was a slouch. Took the Bud fight. You know, I called it early. I said, you got to jump on him early to try to get him out of there early, because Terrence Crawford reminds me of Bernard Hopkins. He will study you. He will not throw that much, and he'll take a couple shots from you to see what you're going to do before he sets you up. I like that I saw him start to fight orthodox, because I've been criticizing him for fighting southpaw when he didn't have to. Kell Brook is a classic British orthodox fighter, but he sets you up behind that jab and that 1-2. Now Terrence Crawford ate a couple jabs, ate a couple counter left hooks coming in, even ate a right hand. But what happened was Terrence Crawford realized, okay, I got this man throwing this jab. I'm starting to feint my right hand to get him to draw that jab out. Then he switched southpaw on him. When I saw him do that, I said, okay, this was getting ready to happen. It changes the entire angle, footwork, and approach mid-round that you have to take when you thought you established a rhythm. And Kell Brook thought he had a rhythm. When I saw Errol Spence, when I saw Terrence Crawford start to counter that jab from Kell Brook with a lead right hook, which is something you don't see, you have to be very skilled to counter an orthodox fighter from the southpaw position with a right hook. When I started to see him land that and started to see him feint and come in with those left hands, I said, "Oh, it's about to be over," and that's what started it. That lead right hook over top of Kell Brook's jab started it, and then that's when Terrence Crawford pounced on him in round 5 and got him out of there. And I'm gonna tell you, man, Kell Brook's a warrior, but Bud is something else, man. Now, Carl, before you ask this question, I'm just gonna say this. I gotta point out some goddamn ridiculousness. I got people saying, "Don't none of them want to see Manny Pacquiao." Do they not know that if you put Terrence Crawford in there with Manny Pacquiao, he would knock that man out in 2 rounds? And that's not a fight against Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao 41 years old, man. What's he going to do against a savvy fighter like Terrence Crawford?
I think Crawford would knock him out in the first round just to prove a point that he shouldn't even be in the ring with him at that stage of his career.
It would be an insult to Bud.
Yeah, I can't even. I think I did see you post something about that, about talking about Manny. I wouldn't even dignify that with a post or a comment. I was like, you obviously been smoking the crack and drinking the water that's in the crack pipe. I don't know what's going on.
That
But
leftover water.
yeah, man, that shit's crazy. But I did. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to watch the whole fight yet. Like I said, I'm gonna be watching a lot of tape tomorrow on my day off. It's been a crazy grind. But I'm gonna check it out. I saw the knockout, and that's why I love Crawford because he has power with both hands, and
Both hands.
yeah, it's already bad enough to have to watch it from one hand, and you got to look out for it from both hands. And then when he switch up and go southpaw, it just
Mid
changed the whole,
round.
yeah, it just changed the whole dynamic for another fight. That's like a chess match along with a boxing match. It's crazy, but that's why I love watching him. I love his family because they always support him, always in the stand, going crazy when he knocked folks out. It was a entertaining, from what I saw, entertaining fight. I saw he had a little knot under his eye, so Brooke did get a couple of good shots hitting on him.
Little jab here or there.
Yeah, so I mean that tells me it was a good fight. I mean it reminded me a little bit of the Gervonta Davis fight, how he, like you said, he dissected it and broke it down, and just when it was time to take him down, boom, it was over. He knew what to do because he broke it down. He's a technical fighter with power and skill, and we always talk about Roy Jones and how, he was always more athletic than his opponent, didn't necessarily have the true boxing skill. But I think with Crawford, you see it on all sides that he has the boxing skill, he has the athleticism, he has the power, he's able to switch hands. I mean, to me, I know, you're the boxing guy, the boxing expert, but to me, he's the pound for pound best fighter out there right now. I don't know all the other ones like but from the limited circle that I see, to me, he's the top boxer out there in my opinion.
Yeah, I still got Canelo as my number one just because this man moved up from what super junior welterweight and then won the light heavyweight world title. I mean, this man done won world titles from 140 to one almost 190. And now just sitting there like, okay, who next? I'm like, well, damn, he may as well fight Deontay Wilder next. Now, there is a case to be made for Bud to be up there because, see, the thing about pound for pound lists, it's not necessary. People confuse it about career accomplishments versus what have you done for me lately. And as of late, Canelo hadn't fought this year. That's why he left Golden Boy. He's been trying to get a fight. So there is an argument to be made for Bud to be number one. Now, what pisses me off is I see guys like Alexander Usyk, a heavyweight who just moved up from cruiserweight, only fought 3 heavyweight fights in an underwhelming fashion, and they got him on a top 10 list and don't have Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, or even Deontay Wilder on that list. And I'm like, come on now, really? You got Lomachenko still on that list, even though he just lost. You got Teofimo Lopez on that list, but not Gervonta Davis. It's a lot of hate going on, but we all know this, Carl. Here's a new development.
Uh-huh.
Top rank, and Terrence Crawford's contract is up. Terrence Crawford, a free agent.
Yeah,
if Terrence Crawford signed with PBC, we may get that Errol Spence Terrence Crawford fight. But I'm gonna tell you this right now before I get into the preview of the next fight. It's not gonna be long. I really, really need to see Errol Spence respond from his first fight from that near fatal wreck, because Scott, he may not have broke no bones, but if people that never got muscular injuries or surgeries before don't know, scar tissue is something else. And scar tissue inside your muscles can really harm your ability to respond in a way you want. And Danny Garcia, to be your first fight back, ain't no slouch. So I'm going to hold judgment. I used to say Errol Spence over Terrence Crawford, and that's not a fight against Terrence Crawford at all. I mean, it could go either way, but I'm really interested to see how Errol Spence going to look against Danny Garcia.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how that one's going to go down because you've been talking about Garcia for a while, and I think I watched him a couple of times when you told me he was on. So I'm definitely interested to see how that goes, especially with Spence, because I think I've only seen him fight once. Because you've been talking about him for a while also. So yeah, it's going to be real interesting. But like I said, I'm a Bud Crawford fan, and until I see somebody do it, I don't see nobody taking him out yet.
I mean, he make you think you can take him out. See, this is what Roy used to do. He make you think you can take him out, but then as soon as you think you can take him out, he hit you with something that you ain't see coming from an angle that you didn't expect, and then it's a wrap. And people like to say, and I'm guilty. I said it before. Sometimes he take too much punishment for me personally, but sometimes I look back at my favorite fighters like Bernard Hopkins. They would do the same thing. It's almost like when Canelo fought Amir Khan. It's like, I will take a shot from you to give a shot because you can't hurt me, but I can knock you out. And I think that's why Bud experiments in the ring at times, it seems like, to see what he can do, to set the traps, to get you comfortable, switch it up on you suddenly like he did against, what's the old boy's name he fought last? Was it Lara or was it Gamboa? And then just put him out of there. It's almost like Roy.
Gamboa
He can put
fight.
you out of there when he felt like it.
Yeah, that Gamboa. I remember that Gamboa fight, man. That was a hell of a fight. Quick update: Monday Night Football game. The Vikings are up 7-3 over the Chicago Bears, but Kurt interception Cousins has just done what he does best on Monday Night Football, which is throw an interception, and Chicago returned it, I believe, to Minnesota's 45, giving them some momentum. I'm hoping they get the touchdown to Jimmy Graham because I need some points in fantasy because Thielen already scored now, down 9 points, which sucks. All right, let's get into this upcoming fight we got going on, Paul. Well, who else we got coming up to fight?
You know which fight I'm about to talk about, and it ain't even a fight that means anything. It's the Mike Tyson Roy Jones fight. That's coming up next week? Look, they say it's an exhibition. Mike Tyson said I only know one speed. Roy Jones said, you think this Bama gonna come in here and take it easy? So I mean, look, of course they gotta hype the fight up. But, they both two professionals. They respect each other. I don't think they're really trying to hurt each other. But it is an intriguing fight to see because this is the debut of Mike Tyson's Sports League. And it's not going to be just boxing. For older folks like us who still may have something to offer to compete against other people like us. You know what I'm saying? So I think he got a few other boxers on board, Holyfield, guys like that who are willing to do the same thing. And it's, fairly safe environment where you ain't got to worry about that brain damage. But I don't know, man. Mike Tyson looking kind of a little too motivated for exhibition, and so I think that's November 21st, and it's on pay-per-view. And I'm gonna tell you, I ain't ordered the pay-per-view. I don't think since Floyd, and before Floyd, since Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson's my guy, and I want to show love to Mike. I love Roy. I want to show love to Roy. You had Mike Williams' uncle on there, and Mike Williams Jr. is one of Roy's fighters. And I love Mike Williams, real good guy. Reached out to me, sold me tickets to his fight personally, real good guy. So I support both of those dudes, man. And I just want to see a good fight. I don't really want to see one or the other lose. It's one of those strange situations where I wish it could be like a draw and nobody get hurt. But that's coming up November 21st. You got Canelo coming up against Caleb Plant, I think. I don't know if that's been canceled or not. You got Joshua fighting Pulev coming up in December, which is very dangerous for Joshua because he hadn't fought in a year. And you got Tyson Fury fighting against some guy I never heard of because Deontay Wilder decided he didn't want to fight suddenly at the last minute, leaving Tyson Fury without an opponent. So those are the next few weeks coming up, man, and not to mention Errol Spence and Danny Garcia. So we got a fairly active few weeks coming up for the holiday season.
Cool. So great. We can always have you back on and breaking down these fights like we always do. Appreciate you taking the time out. We always love having you on here breaking down the latest boxing matches and telling us about the upcoming boxing matches. So let the folks know where they can find you at and what you got going on and what else is popping down there in Charlotte. Hey, man, y'all can catch me on Instagram and on Twitter, P from Charlotte. You can catch me also on Instagram at pugilist_HQ. And, I'm a little upset. Down in Charlotte, I drafted Mike Williams in the draft because I knew McCaffrey would get hurt. I cut him, got him back, cut him when McCaffrey came back. Then I couldn't get him back. Now somebody else got him. Then you kicked my ass last week before Nick Chubb came back. IR. So I started off 6-0. Now I'm 6-4. But other than that, trying to keep my cholesterol low and stay in shape is all I'm doing down in Charlotte, y'all. So hopefully when this COVID is over, I can come up and visit my homies, visit you, visit Robbie. You know what I'm saying? Visit all my guys, man. And that's about all I got, man. No doubt. Well, I said at the beginning of the show, the ironic thing about the fantasy football this week, I had Prater, the kicker, all season. I cut him this week. My opponent picks him up. He puts up 16 points with that 59-yard field goal, along with beating the Washington football team. Tell me that's not. And I was down by 3 points, but then he had Adam Thielen going tonight, and I got Jimmy Graham, and Thielen caught a touchdown already. So now I'm down 9 points. Look like I'm taking my second L in a row. So it all comes back around, man. It all comes.
Well,
back
look,
around.
one more thing. I put in a bid for Kareem Hunt the first week after the draft because I felt that Nick Chubb might go down. Didn't get him, so I thought, okay, I'll sign Dearness Johnson. He can do his thing, man. That dude got probably 3 carries in the whole 8 weeks that Nick Chubb been gone. So fantasy, man, that thing gonna humble you quick.
Yes,
We
sir.
should get you on our pick'em at some point. Yeah, Hurt does a pick'em every year, and you should join in. And
I used to do Hurts fantasy draft.
Yeah.
Well, I did it a couple years in a row, a few years back. So yeah, man, I'm definitely down.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought you was
definitely,
in the
but-
pick'em, Paul. I thought I saw your name on the pick'em.
On
No, I think that's a fantasy football. That's what it is. And I saw your
Yeah,
email. That's in the fantasy
nah.
football. Yeah.
yeah, you kicked my ass last week, Carl. I think that was last week, Carl. You said you winning in
Yeah.
fantasy. I said, yeah, you beat me down.
I picked up a
and I
couple
don't
of-
think
I had-
Kyler
I
Murray
had to
played.
pick up
I
a
had to
running
play
back.
Carson Wentz that week.
Yeah, I picked up a running back. I forgot who it was, but McCaffrey went down because I got McCaffrey, and he put up like 20-something points the 1 week he was healthy, and then he went down again. And I picked up, I think it was Dallas, the dude Dallas something from
From
Seahawks.
Seattle.
Yeah, for Seattle. He scored for me. DK Metcalf went off with the 12 catches and 100 and whatever y'all. So yeah, that was the most points. Sorry, man, it was the most points I put up all year. It was 130 on you, man. My bad.
Oh, remember, they tried to say DK Metcalf was a one-trick pony. I think they figuring out they was a little wrong on that assessment.
Well, he killed me yesterday because they had Jalen Ramsey on him, and he only got 2 catches for 28 yards. So
Yeah.
that's the other reason. I had John Brown sitting on the bench with 7 points and had him in it with 2. At least I'd have been leading going in tonight. But I might take the loss, but I'm still in the playoff hunt, so that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. It don't matter how you get there. Just get there.
Exactly. You never know what's going to happen after that, man. But appreciate you taking the time, man. I know the Army probably ready to jump you as soon as you get back in the house. So,
I'm sure.
Appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, fellas.
man.
Great to be on. Great show.
Paul, I love
man.
having you on. I don't follow boxing all that closely, but I do love your breakdowns. And I know I didn't say anything during that segment, but I enjoyed listening to the whole segment, and I appreciate your time.
Oh man, ain't no problem, Robbie. I feel the same way when it's time for what do you call for hockey talk, because I don't know much about hockey at all, but I love listening to y'all's breakdown. So
Yeah, well, that's what we're here, though. We're trying to bring all the different sports. We had wrestling, we have boxing, you got football, and we'll bring all the other ones back when they come along. But Paul, as always, you're great, and look forward to having you on in a future show.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate it.
All
All
right,
right,
Paul.
sounds
Holler at you,
good.
bro.
So, Carol, this football game is actually pretty interesting. It's the closest matchup that we've had all season, in the sense that, like, it's very split in the pick'em. Like, half the people picked one and half the people picked the other. It's almost like dead even. And on this show, you and I ended up picking the Bears, right? And Dugenet and People's Champ both have the Vikings in this. So we're split even on the show. So I thought that was kind of funny. I'm hoping for your and my sake that the Bears turn it on here. I thought they'd play better, but it's interesting. It's been a lot of ineptitude at both wide receiver positions. There's definitely been some opportunities that have gone by the wayside here early in this Monday Night Football game.
When it comes to Kirk Cousins on Monday Night Football, we pretty much know what's going to happen. So I'm not going to be shocked. That's why I took Chicago in this
That's
game.
smart.
Is because we know
I
what
did.
Kirk.
I did too. I figured the same way, but it's interesting. I mean, the problem is like the Bears are such a hot and cold team too. You don't necessarily know what you're going to get with them. And this whole season, just looking through the whole week, I like doing that every week. I mean, we all had the Ravens, right? No one had the Patriots winning last night in the entire thing. And the Patriots did it. And I don't know how they did it. I watched the game, so it's like I know how they did it, but it's just like this league is so crazy. Like
Well, you got to chalk it up to the hoodie on now. But, he's a defensive genius, man. He can find ways to shut down.
In the rainstorm, right? I feel like it's like perfect, like Sith weather, right? Like Darth Hoodie had the rain barreling down and just like all the things against you. And it's like how he is able to summon that. And, it happens all the time. Like in November and December, they just find a way to win games. And like, it's just so frustrating. And then, I don't know, like, I thought the Seahawks were going to put it to LA, and then in the end, that's not what happened. So there's just so many surprising things. Buffalo, I thought they were going to play pretty well, and they had that game, and then that crazy.
That joint to Hopkins, I saw it a couple of hours ago, and I still couldn't believe what I saw. He went up between two defenders. They coming down with the ball and winning the game. That was great. That Kyler Murray, that dude's something special.
Damn, I wish we had him, right?
I mean, with him, playing in that stadium is definitely an attribute with the turf and, being indoors. Because things change when the weather gets involved. And if it was a wet field, he's not as mobile as he was. That changes the whole dynamic of a defensive coordinator's mindset. So he went to the right place for him, for the style that he plays. And the right division, being in a warmer climate, so he doesn't have to worry about the snow and stuff like that. So that worked out in his favor. But that'd be a big changer in the playoffs if he goes to a team. If they make the playoffs and go to a game in inclement weather. I would like to see how he perform with his style of play, with him being so quick and shifty, with the field conditions not being a top condition. How would he fare?
Yeah, no, totally. It's just the whole league, this whole season is just really crazy. You're talking about the NFC West here, right? That entire division is better than every team in the NFC East. The worst team in that division has a better record. I don't know how to make that sink into anybody else who might be listening, but it is.
But it used to be the opposite, though. Remember, it used to be the opposite.
I know.
So it's just, history and time working itself out. NFC East made some bad decisions. The NFC West was bad for so long that they finally learned from their mistakes, and now they're better, and now we're repeating the same mistakes.
But it's crazy that there's going to be teams in that division that don't make the playoffs, and then one team from our division has to make the playoffs, right? Honestly, the team should forfeit whoever's going to win this dumpster fire, and it should go to the third best team in that division, and
you still got to bring up the Giants. You still got to bring up the Giants when they won the Super Bowl twice from the wild card spot.
The Giants might win the division now. They actually, if they win out in the division, they win the division.
And it wouldn't surprise me at all. 2020, that wouldn't surprise me at all with 2020.
All right, so we'd have Brian back on to gloat about his amazing 6-win division championship that is forthcoming for the New York Football Giants. So, it's an interesting time to be a football fan, for sure. It's been fun to sort of break it down this season. It's weird not talking about football and not basketball and hockey. It's just a very strange, bizarre year, just timing-wise. I did send you a picture, Carol, so now you've seen Tom Wilson in the New Jersey. I wanted to put it on my screen right here so people could kind of see it. They look pretty fly. I think I'm really excited.
Yeah, I definitely rock the joint, man. I still ain't got my Tom Wilson jersey yet.
I know. I'm going to get Tom. We should get matching Tom Wilson those jerseys. That'll be our podcast gift to ourselves for 5 years. So,
I don't know. Maybe I get the road jersey, you get the home jersey. I don't know if we can have the same one. I don't know about
that.
Well,
I have so many jerseys. I'll wear a different one when I see you next time. But, I definitely I think they're only making one, right? I think it's still going to be the normal home, normal road, and this is the alternate, I think.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I forgot,
Yeah. So, I have so many of the normal homes.
You wear yours on Monday, I wear mine on Sunday.
Exactly. So, but anyway, it's going to be an interesting week. I hope we can put together a game against Cincinnati because they can be beat, but so could the Lions and so could New York. And we've just let so many of these games that I think we should have won slip by us. And I know that we're building and we're growing, but it's just I don't know what to expect from this team. I'm going to continue my streak of betting against the team because Betting for them never seems to work, but we'll see what they do, what they have in store for them. But Carol, any thoughts about Cincinnati before we get out of here tonight?
I mean, they had a team on the same thing, trying to build, trying to find their way. You have a young quarterback that's, trying to find his way, number 1 draft pick. It's going to be an interesting game, as we talked about. If the Washington football team can't come out early and be able to put up some points, not saying it has to all be touchdowns, but at least put up 3 or, put up some points in the first half. If you get into the opponent's 30-yard line 4 times and only come up with 3 points, that's never a good ratio at all. So they just have to come out and play good ball. Just play like they played against the Cowboys and everything. That's all I'm going to just keep referring to. That game, they played a good game. They had a good game plan. They executed. They played well. Didn't turn the ball over and played solid defense for most of the game. So if we can see that, this team can beat, almost anybody on any given Sunday. But we have to see it consistently for a whole 60 minutes.
For sure. Well, I hope that we do, because these games are very frustrating to watch. I'm happy that you and Dujanet break it down, and I can just sort of be that fan experience, but it's rough at times, being a Washington football team fan. And I try to speak for that fan base, because there is a very angry fan base, that's just very frustrated by this whole situation. And I don't necessarily blame them. It's just like, I get it, and I understand it from our point of view that we got to break it down, that this is, it's a process. But no one wants to hear that. We want our teams to win now. I mean, we had championships in all these great sports. And so, DC fans were like, well, why can't the football team get one too? So hopefully, I hope DC People's Champ is correct. And in a couple of years, we're able to turn it around and see some progress, and hopefully see some progress this week, and maybe even get a victory, because that would be a great story. Because I feel bad. Alex Smith is this great comeback story. He might be comeback player of the year right now, and he still doesn't have a win. And he's the only football quarterback on the team who doesn't have one for this team.
Yeah,
and it's just like, that's what so blows my mind about it, right? Like, it's just like, he's played so well the last 2 weeks, he deserves one.
Hey, that's just 2020, man. Well, last week was the 2 late picks, that was on him. This week, the team didn't get it together quick enough. He only had 2 sacks, no no turnovers, no fumbles. So it's just in finding their way, just like we saw, when Kyle Allen got into center. The first game was a train wreck. Second game was better. Third game was a win. So, the first game, come in off the injury, throw the interception. Second game, play a above average game, but throwing the ball 55 times is never a good recipe for victory in the NFL. And then I think this week, with him having another week under center, doing practice, learning the wide receivers, learning the running backs and how they play and how they do things, I'm thinking we're going to still see Dink and Dunk, but I'm thinking we're going to see him get more comfortable and, maybe taking that extra second and not going to the running back and see if that wide receiver can get open or, win in that situation and get a leverage or whatever and be able to get a reception instead of him going to the running back for a 5-yard game. It turned into a 20-yard game. We saw him made some nice throws to Isaiah Wright and Cam Sims. These some of the highlights that I saw. I'm still going to watch the whole game. Might go live. Who knows? I don't know. You never know when it comes to me. But I think they're going to be fine. They're growing. They're progressing. Just not at a steady pace. But like Rivera said, they're trying to find themselves. They're trying to figure things out. This hasn't been a typical year. Normally, at this point of the year, you'll know who you are and know what team you have. But, with no preseason and the COVID and everything that went on, it's just, taking a little bit longer to get them in their niche and get them in their identity. So let's just ride it out and see what happens, man. We've seen some good. We've seen a lot of bad. But, all you can do is stay optimistic and hope for the best and hope that they're learning and getting better.
Right. Real quickly before we head out of here, I like that idea, though, of you going back and fast-forwarding through it and going live, and just whoever can be on in the afternoon and checks it out, and really share it up later. That's kind of a cool idea, to get a coaching breakdown of what your thoughts are on the play as it happens, But Yeah, it's frustrating, but we'll hopefully see better next week. And I look forward to continuing to break down the season, no matter how it happens. We'll be here, win, lose, or hopefully not tie. You can tie in this thing. Donovan McNabb didn't always knew that.
That's how Philly still got the division lead with that tie.
I know. It's pretty crazy that team seems to tie a fair amount, like way more often than we do for sure. Although we have tied ourselves in the last 5 years, so it can happen. We've talked about one on this show, so it's a crazy season. We'll see how it goes, I guess. I don't even know where to necessarily end it. We'll just have to see what we do next week. But I'll let you do our sign out, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, appreciate it. As always, another great show. Appreciate you, Robbie, doing your thing. As always, you can catch us on every Monday night, 8 o'clock at this time, because we just talking football. Make sure you go check out the website, SportsOTHP.com. You can hit the SportsOTHP apparel link to check out some of the apparel. We got the nice shirt with partnered up with Eric Kusa. You know what it is, SportsOTH apparel. You see Robbie with his HTTR vintage W football WFT SportsOTHP shirt. You see we got a District of Champions. He got the pillow in the background. I got the backdrop. So, just check out our stuff, man. Support us. We appreciate it. I had a couple of my folks purchase some stuff. So, appreciate it as always. Make sure you check out the YouTube channel. Carol put it the third. That's with 3 eyes, not the number 3. You're looking for a new, used, or pre-owned certified vehicle, make sure you holler at me. Come holler at me down at Honda Waldorf, 2450 Crane Highway, North Mount Side, across from the Popeyes and the Lowe's. Make sure you check me out at the Bar Radio on Sundays. 151 Lady Antoinette and myself breaking down current events, politics, entertainment, news, independent music, and just having fun on the air. Check out the show from last night, birthday show. We had a ball. Had a great guest on that he was interviewing before we got to the studio. So make sure you go check it out, give it a listen, go subscribe, and continue, showing the love that you do. I'm going to end the show with a Renegade Money Convo video that I made my acting debut in. Make sure you go check it out. He's already over 55,000 streams. He's over 6,500 views on YouTube after 3 weeks. So keep checking it out. Keep sharing it. Keep letting folks know there's some real hip-hop here in Northern Virginia. Renegade 703, CP3, Robbie G, signing off for Paul the Boxing Guy, DC People's Champ, Dujanay, and Robbie G. Y'all be safe, be blessed, and we see y'all next week. You might see me tomorrow. Y'all be safe and be blessed. CP3 out.
Stay up out of my way. 'Cause money, 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 make me shut 'em off. Keep playing with the Goonies, boy, I'm gonna have to make the call. Stay in bounds on your pivot, boy, if you gon' ball. Cause a lot of niggas be fake, and you really can't play. Cause we done got it out the mud, nigga, what you talking about? Screaming, oh my God, money got me pride. They living a lie, look into my eyes, they might seem surprised, this is homicide. We just multiply. We've been on the ride. money's what I'm talking about. We don't really know what you've been talking about. And you don't really want to play. You don't know what to say. Cause money's what I'm talking about. We don't really know what you've always been talking about. And I don't wanna be the one who always really talk about. And you don't really want to play. You don't know what to say. Cause money's what I'm talking about. You never crossing these borders. I'm whipping it up, Gordon Ramsay. I swear that I'm cooking these orders. You talk about me, you better just hope that you can just really afford it. I'm balling, I'm winning, I'm feeling like Robert's a horror. Nigga, I'm scoring. I count in the morning. They talk about me, then I gotta ignore it. My bitches be foreign, so independent, my money be corporate. These rappers is boring. You hate me and I'm always gonna